Good morning. Today we're going to go over top dialogues to generate income. So these are closing dialogues. These are just general dialogues that an agent has on a daily basis that lead to dollars closed and profit. And they're probably the dialogues that, as most realtors, you use the most every day in and out of the business with buyers and with sellers. So there's six that come to mind that are probably the most important. And I'm going to rank these in order of not necessarily how often you use them, but order of importance. So number one dialogue for closing, it's the number one question on the Waller Group seller appointment form. And that is, if you're comfortable when I come out Tuesday at 5, will you move forward with listing the home with me? So if you're comfortable with everything that I have, there's several ways you can phrase it, but basically you want to use that verbiage. If you're comfortable with everything that I present to you, then will you move forward with listing the property, or do you plan on listing the property Tuesday at 6 when I come out? So think you can phrase it any way you want, but you have to make sure you ask that question. You want to make sure that they're going to give you a commitment and sign that agreement before you leave that listing appointment. And this is especially important, not just for experienced agents, but even more important for new agents. And the reason I'll tell you why is because a new agent, when you're going out on a listing appointment, you don't have the experience that an experienced agent has. So you need to know every objection that may come up before you get to that appointment. So that way you can talk to Richard or talk to myself about it, and we can eliminate those objections and we can diffuse those, so that way you're prepared. So asking that number one question may lead you down a path of another 20 responses that they give you that they wanted to know Tuesday at that listing appointment, or whenever that listing appointment is. If you're on the spot and you're a new agent you don't know, then you're dead in the water. You've lost that listing many times. So that's why it's so important, even though it's a tough question to ask, but for a new agent or the most experienced agents. So number one question of the sales dialogues is that number one question that's on the Waller Group seller appointment form, which is, if you're comfortable with everything that I have to say when I come out on Wednesday at X time, or whatever the appointment time is, will you move forward with the listing? Or do you plan on listing when I come out Tuesday, or whatever the time is? So make sure that question is answered. And that's the reason why it's so important to ask that, because it diffuses so many other objections. Now, that's by far and foremost the most important dialogue. Number two, this is a dialogue that you'll use with buyers. So this is a buyer closing dialogue. If we find a home today that meets your needs, will you move forward? It's a simple question, but so many times agents don't ask that before they go show property. So especially in this fast moving market, again, a lot of this is setting the buyer or the seller expectation. And it's also, if before you spend your time, because your time is your most precious asset when you're a realtor, then making sure that they have the proper expectations. So that's when, if they say, well, no, we just wanted to look today. Well, we just want to get an idea of what's available. Then you know. Now, you may want to coach them. Well, with the values going up, there's why wouldn't we want to make a decision today? Well, we just want to think about things. We want to look at some properties that are out there before we make a decision. Well, if you're not peeling that onion, and if you're not going deeper with your question to find out why, you won't move forward in the sales process. So let's always work on expediting the sales process. Let's work on this over the phone before you spend your time on that appointment. So one of the ways I would counter that, if they say, well, we just wanted to look, is if we find the right property today, then let's think about what the risk is from moving forward, because that's my job as a realtor, is to mitigate your risk, or to make sure that you have the least amount of risk. The risk is, in the next few weeks, property values move up. So that same house 3 weeks from today will cost you more money. Does that make sense? The other risk is, if this particular house is not available in several weeks, or if you like it and then we come back and it's not available. And that's in this fast moving market, that's happening more often than not. So the risk for you, if we do make a decision today, is basically your option fee. That's only if they accept our offer. So if they accept our offer, your option fee of what, $200, $100, is that something that you could live with? Um, does that sound fair to you? To If we do find something, I would like to be prepared to go ahead and make an offer on it. Does that sound fair? So, and work through them on that conversation before you get in the car and start showing the property. Okay, so that's question dialogue number 2. If we find a home today that meets your needs, will you move forward? Question number 3. Are you paying cash or financing? Great. What lender are you working with? Fantastic. What type of loan? And how much money are you putting down? Okay, so where I'm going with this is the buyer pre-qual dialogue. It's a component of that. Most of this is in your Waller Group script books, but this is one that I even still use today. Sometimes somehow I'll get these buyer calls, and that's one of the things that I ask them is, are you paying cash or are you financing? Just assuming that they're paying cash, right? You always want to hope for the best with someone. And if you make that assumption that they're paying cash for their property, then they will generally pretty quickly tell you, well, I plan on financing this much, or we're going to, and then that's when again you assume, because you want to hope for the best, you just assume that they're doing the best that they can, that they have applied for a loan, that they qualify for a loan. If not, then you want to help them. You want to be that resource. And then that's when you can recommend our preferred lenders, and you can help them through that process. But you want to, in this market, usually assume, but always I find out for sure and verify. Okay, so that is question number 3. Are you paying cash or financing? Great. What lender are you working with? It also gives you an opportunity to give them a second opinion with a lender that we have a consistent track record with. And you want to find out, why is it they're using this lender? How did they find that lender? Is it a friend of a brother? Is it someone that they have closed business with in the past? If they've closed business with that lender in the past, then they're probably not very likely to use one of your lenders. But if they have not, and we do this all day, every day, and we do have lenders we've closed business with, then they're very likely to use our lender versus the person they're already qualified with. But make sure you're planting that seed up front with them. Okay. Question number 4. Would you like me to prepare an offer? So this is a showing question. This is when you're out showing property, and there again, when you think of that sales pyramid, and this is also in the dialogue guide and in your training, at the bottom are all the leads, and you're always ABC, always be closing, always move them closer to that process. And when you're showing, the next the next part of the sales process is the offer process. So that's where, would you like me to prepare an offer? And get them comfortable with that, and then find out why not. If the house meets their needs, why not? Let's look at the risk of, if we were, maybe they're worried about the foundation, and then you can give them your experience on the foundation, on what, and get myself or Richard involved there, because there is a lot of foundation movement, especially this time of the year. Well, actually in August is usually when we see more cracking on these foundations, because it's dry. So that's sometimes a result of the time of the year. So a consumer needs to know these things. They don't always know that when they're out looking at property. So make sure that you understand that. Okay, so that's question number 4. Would you like me to prepare an offer? Question number 5. If you were to, and this is the seller questions, this would be your seller prospecting, or with anyone, a divorce lead, a probate lead, a move-up buyer, a farming lead in your geo farm, door knocking when you're out door knocking, then this is a very common question that creates an open dialogue and a very non-confrontational way of generating business. If you were to move, where would you move next? So you're planting that seed in their head. And if they, more than likely, if you're talking to them and it's in your geo farm and you're prospecting these people, then they probably have already thought about it. So you asking them continues the conversation a little bit further, and it's non-confrontational. So there again, that's part of the seller appointment form, and that's part of your seller training, but it's a basic question that you'll use day in and day out with people. If you were to move, where would you move next? What is your time frame would be the next question from that. How soon would you like to be there? So that is qualifying their motivation. And so those are the two most important questions you're going to use in the upstream prospecting process of listing prospecting and developing your listing business. Okay, so question number 6, or sales dialogue number 6, is probably one of the more you really need to know your numbers for this, and that is basically when people ask you, how's the market? You know, how's the market, Logan? And you're at a cocktail party, you're at the gym, you're just out with friends, and someone says, how's business? Right? We're all asked that all the time. How's business? How's the market? So your response, what is your response? Is it, oh, it's fantastic? Well, they know that. So how does that set you apart as an expert? How does that make you any different than all these other yin yang realtors that are out there? So that's where making sure you understand the person you're talking to. Are they a renter? Are they a homeowner? What is it that's going to resonate with them, and how you respond to that question? How's business? So this is something you need to think about, these responses. You need to have a response ready for a homeowner, and you need to have a response ready for a renter all the time. You need to have a response ready for a move-up buyer all the time. And those responses you can only have ready if you know your geofarm and the area that they live in and that you're working in. So that's why studying the numbers and the market reports every quarter and looking at the net statistics of what's going on in your MLS area, knowing your white paper, knowing the stats there of what's changing, because that's what resonates with people, is what's changing, then how you respond to that question. So the response would be, how's the market? Oh, and let's say John is a homeowner right now in your geofarm. Gosh, it's great. Sales are up 20%, and the average days on market is down. Pending sales are also up about 18% here in this area. And have you thought about if you were to move, where would you move? You know, would be a common question. Or there's we're seeing a real lack of inventory, and we're seeing values move up faster than what we had expected. So values are up 12%, or be very specific with your numbers in a specific area. So that way they know that you know your numbers. When people tell me, oh, the market's great, that's about the most boring answer that you can give someone, or how you can respond to that. You have to give them information that they don't already know. So maybe a story about your business, and a lot of it depends on personalities too. With me, it's numbers, so I respond to numbers and I think about that. But also, if you're talking to a high I personality type, maybe give them a story about a buyer that you just worked with, and business is great. I just closed someone last week that was so exciting to get them into their first house, and they used our moving services. We were able to save them $500 on their move, and I was able to save them $2,000 when I negotiated down from the repairs. It was really made me feel really good about them. So think about the personality styles and think about the type of person that you're talking to before you respond to those questions as well. So, okay, with that being said, you guys have a productive and a profitable week. We are in middle of July, so this is one of the hottest months of the year. And as sales begin to taper down, make sure that you are working your geofarm and that you are taking advantage of the summer market too, because 65% of the moves are in the summer market, in the summer months. So there's a lot more inventory to choose from, even though it's moving faster now than it does fourth quarter. There is more to choose from now than there is fourth quarter. So keep that in mind for any buyers that you have that may be looking. Also, make sure that you're illustrating how much prices are moving up to any buyers that you have that are on the fence. Do they know how much every day is costing them? Do they know that rents are moving up at about 5% a year in the Metroplex? So their rent right now, if it's $1,800 a month, then what is that plus 5%? That's probably their rent is going to be moving up like that. Talk to them about housing affordability, and that's probably going to become a bigger issue here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We're starting to hear people talk about that nationally, how Dallas is, we're not there yet. It's still one of the more affordable markets to live in. But if they're locked into a 30-year loan, and if they own their home, then they don't have an affordability issue they have to deal with. It's all the renters out there that have to deal with that. So do they want to be on the wrong side of the fence, or do they want to be on the right side and buy now before affordability is an issue here in the Metroplex? So make sure you know how to respond to these questions, and call me or ask me if you don't know, if you want to work on this together. So, all right, you guys have a productive and a profitable week. Thank you.